Harmony is tasty stuff. It has flavor. It might be hot and spicy. It might be sweet and savory.
Yeah, just keep it coming, please.
Sure thing.
It could be dull and bland, but we really don't want that. Are you looking to spice up your keyboard improvisations? Watch what happens when we apply a few simple principles. Join me now on a journey to explore flavorful diatonic harmony in this third episode. Let's begin with the progression 1-4-5-1 in the key of G major. This is an expansion of the 1-5-1 tension relaxation cycle that we explored in episode 2. This is the simplest expression of the basic phrase model harmonic structure: tonic, predominant, dominant, tonic. The soprano melody is a simplified version of the verse opening from James Horner's My Heart Will Go On from the Titanic score. The texture is in 4 voices: SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Let's drop in the pop symbols and their corresponding Roman numeral harmonic analysis and cadence type. It is a perfect authentic cadence, the most conclusive kind, like an exclamation mark in punctuation. All chords are in closed voicing, the most vertically compact arrangement of tones. All chords consist of primary triads, purely consonant, and each chord has a doubled root, which is standard. In terms of voice leading, from the 4 to 5 chords, the upper 3 voices descend as a group, which is in contrary motion to the bass, which ascends. This is a good rule to remember. Now, let's listen to it. It's like a plain baked potato, just begging, indeed crying out for spice to be added. So let's bring on the spice. For our first technique, let's add the 7th to the dominant triad, resulting in a dominant 7th chord. We will replace the 5th in the tenor with the 7th. The voice leading has been improved because we now have a common tone with the previous chord, which may be tied across the bar line. The Roman numeral is 5-7, and its corresponding pop symbol is D7 omit 5. You see, real magic happens when we add the 7th.
It's magic.
Because this once consonant chord now has not 1, but 2 dissonant intervals. A minor 7th, abbreviated M7 between root and 7th, that is between the bass and the tenor, which is a mild dissonance, and an augmented 4th, abbreviated A4, a tritone, between the 7th and 3rd, which is the tenor and soprano voices. This is a harsh, hot, and spicy dissonance. Because the 5th of the chord has been omitted, we can refer to this dominant 7th as being incomplete, and we can mark it with an asterisk. And so we don't forget that these chords function in the same way in minor mode. Let's take a look and listen to the same progression in the parallel minor key, that is G minor, as opposed to G major, a darker version of the same thing. Next, we shall replace the simplified soprano line with the original, more interesting line. Focus on measure 2, beat 2. This G, which we can call Do in movable Do solfege, is not part of the dominant 7th chord and is thus a non-harmonic tone. We can abbreviate it NHT. So rather, it belongs to the tonic triad that occurs on beat 3. This tone anticipates the harmony to which it belongs, and is thus called an anticipation.
Anticipation.
A type of decorating, embellishing tone that typically occurs at an authentic cadence, and the resulting chord is a D7 sus. This next technique will sweeten the harmony like honey. We will embellish this progression with passing tones. This will create beautiful moving inner lines producing tension relaxation cycles, which will prepare and resolve dissonances. To begin, we will triple the root of the initial tonic triad by moving the alto from the fifth up to the root, momentarily bringing this voice in unison with the soprano. This gives us a tripled root with 1/3 in the tonic chord. Then on the second beat, the alto will step down, sounding a passing tone, more specifically, what is called a passing seventh. This is a G major seventh harmony, a sugary sweet chord which can be very charming.
So beautiful.
In the Roman numeral harmonic analysis, we can write the Arabic numerals 8 to 7 to show this passing motion above the bass pitch, that is, between the alto and bass voices. Notice that the alto voice consists of a gentle, downwardly stepping line, encompassing the interval of a fourth. In solfege syllables, this line is do, ti, la, sol. We have another opportunity to use a passing tone, this time in the tenor voice. Let's change the half note on middle C to a quarter so that we can similarly follow it with the passing seventh, yielding a C major seventh harmony. As before, we can show the Arabic numerals 8 to 7 next to the Roman numeral 4. This dissonant major seventh interval will resolve down by step to a consonance with the bass, the fifth of the dominant triad. Cool, huh? Here is an easy way to create a richer, warmer effect. It sounds particularly wonderful when scoring for strings. Let's simply swap the inner voices, that is, transfer the alto voice to the tenor an octave lower, and the tenor to the alto at the unison, and additionally lower the bass by an octave. All of these actions produce greater vertical space, that is, larger intervals between adjacent voices. After these inner voices have been switched, that is, the intervals inverted, we of course need to change the stem directions. The alto voice is stem down and tenor stem up. Keep in mind that there are many other types of voicings which we will explore in future videos. Let's take a listen. Inverting chords can result in a bass line which is smoother, that is, more stepwise and thus more melodic, called conjunct motion. If inversions are never employed, the bass line will likely skip and leap a great deal, resulting in a more jumpy, disjunct angular contour. Also, inversions can greatly intensify the progression, as you'll see in a moment. This is a good opportunity to quickly review the concept of chord inversion. When a chord factor other than the root is assigned to the bass voice, the chord is said to be inverted. While the Roman numeral indicates the scale degree which corresponds to the root of the chord, Arabic numerals indicate the harmonic intervals which correspond to the chord factors. It's easy to remember the Arabic numerals. Just think of the descending ordinal numbers: 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Some theory books use the single numeral 2 to specify third inversion, and others 4/2. Keep in mind that a triad can only be inverted twice, that is, to first and second inversions. Let's take a look at the dominant seventh chord with all four pitches appearing on the bass staff, that is, the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh. The superscripted Arabic numeral 7 is an abbreviation for 753, which specifies the diatonic harmonic intervals above the bass voice, which correspond to the members or factors of the chord. The 7 shows the minor seventh between the root and the seventh, and 5 shows the perfect fifth between the root and the fifth, and the 3 shows the major third between the root and the third. Next, let's move the root up an octave to become the highest voice. Now the third of the chord, that is F sharp, is the bass note.
F sharp.
This is called first inversion. The root is still the fifth degree, that is the dominant degree, so the Roman numeral doesn't change, but the Arabic numerals have changed to 6-5-3. We use the abbreviation 6-5, and the chord is called 5-6-5. The pop symbol correspondingly changes to D7 over F sharp. The forward slash tells us that the bass is some other pitch class than D. You might think of this as a D7 chord in the right hand over an F sharp bass note in the left. Take a look at the intervals now from the bass upwardly. Minor sixth, diminished fifth, minor third. Next, we shall transpose the F sharp bass note up an octave so we have a new bass, A, which is the fifth of the chord, resulting in second inversion. Take a look at the intervals from the bass once again. Major sixth, perfect fourth, minor third. Finally, by moving the bass note A up an octave, C, the seventh of the chord, becomes the new bass, resulting in third inversion. Take a quick look at the intervals from the bass once again. Major sixth, augmented fourth, major second. Now let's apply inversion to the passage. When we place the seventh of the dominant seventh in the bass, the result, as we now know, is third inversion. All we need to do is move the bass D down to C. We can tie it to the same pitch in the previous measure. This C is solfege syllable fa, a tendency tone or active step which needs to resolve by descending a semitone or half step to B, which is solfege syllable mean. Now the tonic triad is in first inversion. The tenor's B must be changed to G so we can double the root of the chord and resolve the re tendency tone to do. Finally, the Roman numeral analysis and pop symbols should change to reflect our inversions. The cadence is now less conclusive than it was before. It is now an imperfect authentic cadence, a type of evaded cadence, because the final tonic chord is not in root position. Let's take a listen to this, and then again you'll see a keyboard which will help you to play it. I just love suspensions. They are so powerful. Focus on the final chord. What would happen if we held over the tenor voice from the 5-4-2 chord into the 1-6? It would, of course, produce a non-harmonic tone, a dissonance of a minor seventh above the bass, which we will resolve through oblique motion with the bass. That is, the upper voice in the interval will move down while the lower will stay put. Moving from the 7 dissonance, referred to as a suspension, which is another kind of embellishing tone, to a 6 consonant resolution. This cycle is called a 7-6 suspension. Look at the harmonic interval between the tenor and the bass at the 5-4-2. It is an interval of a sixth. This imperfect consonance is called the preparation. The entire suspension cycle, therefore, consists of 3 parts: preparation, dissonance, resolution, or PDR. Recall that in the basic 1-4-5-1 progression that served as our point of departure, every chord was the same in several respects. What if we could substitute one or more of these primary triads with secondary triads in first inversion? By secondary triads, we are referring to the minor 2, 3, and 6 chords. Let's take a look. After establishing the initial tonic chord, we can substitute 4 with 2-6. We can substitute 5 with 3-6. And we can substitute 1 with 6-6. The most important question is, why do these substitutions work?
Tell me why.
Because the secondary triads share 2 common tones and the same bass note with the primary triads. The resulting contrast and quality is refreshing because these substitutions are minor rather than major triads, and they're in first inversion. To demonstrate this in our current key, G major, this would mean that a C major triad could be replaced by A minor over C, and all we need to do is move one voice. The fifth of the C major triad moves up to become the root of A minor. Similarly, D major can be replaced with B minor over D, and G major can be replaced with E minor over G. The supertonic chord has been preferred over the subdominant by the greatest composers throughout history, and every jazz musician knows the importance of the 2-5-1 progression. For example, the Coltrane changes from giant steps are essentially 2-5-1, alternating in rapid succession between three different keys in an augmented cycle of rapidly changing tonal centers in major third relations.
What you talking about, Willis?
Color-coded here. I know that sounds complicated. We will explore that in future videos. Now, let's substitute 4 with 2-6. We'll enrich the chord with a 7th, resulting in a 2-6-5. Let's use the supertonic 7th again, but this time in third inversion, which will leave the tonic degree in the bass voice. We'll follow this with 5-6-5. If we place the soprano melody, slightly simplified, in the bass voice, we can use these changes. This chord pattern occurs in Johann Sebastian Bach's Prelude No. 1 in C major from the Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1, from 1722. It also occurs in Elton John's Circle of Life from The Lion King.
From that day we arrived on the planet.
Sequences in chord changes create a feeling of direction. The term sequence derives from the Latin sequor, meaning to follow, such as a numerical sequence or the fallacy in argumentation called non sequitur. When root motion and inversion in a chord progression repeat, but at successively higher or lower pitch levels, a predictable pattern emerges. It's akin to a chain with links. Think of this as diatonic transposition, or the copying and pasting of voices up or down. Songs like the Eagles' Hotel California and Beach Boys' California Girls are based on sequences. Sequences usually occur as threefold statements. Any more will likely strike the ear as redundant. Looking at a piano roll of a DAW, such as Logic Pro, makes this graphically clear to the eye. Each colored bar represents a voice, SATB. Do you see a repeating pattern? The two upper voices have long-held notes, while the two lower move down in parallel motion. It's called a descending secundal harmonic sequence. We have 3 links in a chain. Now, let's think in Roman numerals. Can you determine what the next 2 pairs of chords will be? That is, the next links in the chain? In each link, the roots of the 7th chords descend by a 5th, while the inversion pattern moves from 3rd to 1st inversion. Here's the pattern: 2-4-2 to 5-6-5, 1-4-2 to 4-6-5, 7-4-2 to 3-6-5. Now look at the 2 chords in blue. These will be repeated down by step. After 3 sequential statements, we arrive at the relative minor key of E minor. Look at the last 3 chords, that is the 3rd link. These chords are predominant, dominant, tonic in the relative minor key. The zigzag graphic is a pivot symbol showing a common chord modulation. The penultimate chord quality has been changed to a major minor 7th, and this is the dominant 7th in the relative minor. Okay everyone, I've saved the best for last. If we expand the texture from 4 voices to 5 by adding a second tenor, we can create rich, chocolatey, sumptuous double suspensions and double passing tones. The effect of release and relaxation produced by these dissonances will feel even more satisfying because of the resolution of greater degrees of harmonic tension. Let's place the melody in tenor 2. Focus on the outer voices, soprano and bass. If we lengthen the soprano's first pitch by 1 beat, allowing it to bleed over into beat 3, it will produce a properly prepared major 7th dissonance with the bass, which will be resolved to a 6th. This is a lovely 7-6 suspension. Ah, but there's more! Let's add chocolate chips to the chocolate frosting. If we similarly hold the tenor 1 voice by a beat, we will create a 9-8 suspension with the bass. Now we have a double suspension. The pop symbol at beat 3 is a C major 9th.
Wait, there's much more.
Focus on measure 1, beat 4. If we similarly double the length of the alto and tenor 2 voices, tying them over the bar line, we can create another double suspension, making the chord at measure 2, beat 1 a dominant 9 sus4. This is a combination of 9-8 and 4-3 suspensions. Yet again, we can hold over the soprano and tenor 1 voices as we had before and in the same metric position, producing a double suspension of the final tonic chord. Lastly, we'll adjust the pop cymbals. Finally, if we vary the melody in tenor 2, doubling the third of the initial tonic triad, we can produce double passing tones. Now let's listen and then have you play it for yourself. And that's going to wrap it up. 8 techniques for diatonic reharmonization. If you enjoyed this video, would you smash that like button and subscribe to this channel? See you next time.